This new place is right by the ocean.
Yes?
Why? Oh, that's amazing. Oh, there could be treasure out there. I need to order a shovel. By the way, why do you look so tired?
You have been there. The job is finally done. It's complete. There are no more tasks to do. The list is finished. And you are happy. You're content. You, however, are also exhausted. You have a headache. Your body aches, perhaps. And the last thing you want to do is anything physical. But you're not actually sleepy. You're not about to slip into the grips of depression. Not for this, at least. No, you are simply tired and need to recharge. So you crawl onto the couch and you turn on the TV. Or perhaps you grab a book. You simply need to get away from it all. Maybe it's with some friends. The world, the universe is yours to explore.
The doorway to the building had eyes, and the voice was great with the weight of a martyr. The brain is single-minded.
I'm just going to let him be and just let him read for a moment. Reading, like watching, are activities that allow us to escape into worlds that are sometimes similar, sometimes fantasy, and sometimes nothing more but a wish. There are some that say that watching TV is too passive of an activity. Others say that reading is a waste of time. In my opinion, those are, of course, both wrong. They both have their place in escapism for humans, and when done correctly, they can take conversations to new levels. What both of these forms of escapism have in common, however, is that they both can be done entirely on one's own. Even when in the presence of others, one can completely and fully escape into these rabbit holes. Now, with all escapism, there is of course a dark side to this. We can all tell of times, past or present, especially in this modern world, where we have all said, to heck with it. I'm shutting down, I'm going to binge, I'm going to watch the show from start to finish. Now, maybe you do it in one day, maybe it takes you a couple days, it doesn't matter. Now, there are other people there right now that are saying, I would never waste my time binging on television. Hey Ish, how many books you've read today?
What? Books? 3 today. Listen, go away. I'm increasing my brain capacity. Now, let's see.
Back to those that have never binged, or at least say they have never binged. Let me ask you this. Have you ever binged a little, say, in a book? A book series, perhaps? Binging is binging. However we want to wrap it up, it is the same thing, and it is not necessarily bad. The odd or even schedule binge is no different than a good all-day hike if done in appropriate amounts. Books, movies, TV shows, it can all have the same recuperating effect when done right. Now, in the terms of recuperation, it can allow the body and the mind the time to put the negative parts of the recently completed task, toil, battle into the past. And binging allows us to forget and softly coat the bad with a sweet, crunchy coating to turn bad memories into content ones. To give us a moment to be alone and also to do it together, where we can recharge into our own happy little shells but not lose the connections we have strived to create. It can even allow us to share a quiet beverage while we talk about later what we binged just now, in the glow of the successfully completed whatever it was.
Mold. It was fungus and mold.
Whatever it was. Now, don't forget to subscribe and like below, and check out our YouTube page, our Facebook page, and all the other pages that we have full of geek news now. Welcome to the Geek Flashback News, where we are in the 1950s and coaxial cable is once again showing the world why it is still the GOAT. Using coax as its backbone, cable television starts to move from the realm of hobbyists and goes mainstream. The early cable systems were designed to simply receive weak broadcasts of local channels, amplify them, and send them over unshielded wires to subscribers, limited to a community or to adjacent community. It was the Canadians, however, that conceptualized a system where communities with their own limited number of channels would want to receive other channels, especially from America. The first basic cable network channel in America launched via satellite in 1976, and it was Ted Turner's superstation WTCG in Atlanta, Georgia, standing for Turner Communications Group. By the 1980s, with the advent of major cable networks, home box office, music television, and the cable's news channel were all showcasing the domination potential of national audiences receiving the same programming at the same time. The power of this connectivity was showcased by major cable moments, including bringing expansive sports and world news coverage to markets that, until the advent of the technology, were unable to receive real-time information with video. For communities in isolated locations, cable television delivered the promise of being part of the larger world. These early networks delivered on the promise of taking all of the available programming, including local FM stations, television, network television, government programming such as CPAC, and offering them for consumption through a convenient device called the cable box. Yes, that is correct. All of the media services for the day available in one box at the press of a single button. The cable model also meant that the packages of channels could be sold, thus increasing the audience that was available to any particular channel. Quite simply, it was the perfect medley of technology and capitalism for the time. Yes, indeed, folks, cable television at the time definitely brought the promise of all the media available to your home under one monthly bill, one cost, one shop. Who would ever think that this was a bad idea? This has been your Geek News Flashback. Today's Geek News Flashback has been brought to you by Ripped Apparel. Use the promo code GNN10 for all your finer geek apparel needs. And don't forget to subscribe and like below to keep up on all your fan-fueled content.
Hello, humans. This is Ish. If you are one of the bags of mostly water that have not figured it out yet, I am a higher life form trapped on this planet trying to figure out how to survive. Now that you know that, I want to share a story that I have recently read. Now, this is not a new story. It was published a few decades ago according to the page at the front, but it's one that I found on my Humans Host bookshelf. The book intrigued me as the main character is someone like myself. Now, I won't go into any deep details other than to say that I want to share a bit of the book before I tell you my thoughts. Day 1. Spot Force suggested I do this. Talk into the recorder at nights after work and discuss what I had done during the day. He gave me extra BBs just for this. The work is dreary at times, but it may have its rewards. I've been at it 5 days now. This is the first on which I've been felt at ease enough with a little recording machine to begin talking about it myself into it. And what is there to say about myself? I am not an interesting person. The films are brittle and must be handled with the greatest of care. When they break, as they frequently do, I must spend a careful time splicing them back together. I tried to get Dean Spotforth to assign me a technician robot. Perhaps a robot trained as a dentist or in some kind of precision work. But he merely said that would be too expensive. And I am certain he is right. So I thread the films into strange old machines called projectors and make certain they are adjusted properly, and then I begin projecting them on the little screen on my bed and desk. The projector is always noisy, but even my footsteps seem terribly loud down here in the basement of the old library. Nobody ever comes here, and moss grows on the ancient stainless steel walls. And then when the words appear in print on the screen, I stop the projector and read them aloud into the recorder. Sometimes this only takes a moment, as with lines like "no" or "the end," where only the slightest hesitation is needed before pronouncing them. But other times harder phrases and spellings occur, and then I must study for a long time before I am certain of the wording. One of my most difficult was on one of those black backgrounds on the screens after a highly emotional scene where a young woman had expressed worry. It read in full, "If Dr. Carruthers does not arrive presently, Mother is certain to take leave of her senses." You can imagine the trouble I had with that one. And another went, "Only the mockingbird sings at the edge of the woods," spoken by an old man to a young girl. I have already gone through more of them than I know how to count, and more than those remain. All of them are black and white, and they have the kind of jerky motions of the huge ape in Kong Returns. Everything about them is strange, not just the way the characters move and react. There is the, how can I say this, the sense of involvement to them, the sense that great waves of feelingfulness wash over them. Yet to my understanding, they are sometimes as blank and meaningless as the polished surface of stone. Of course, I do not know what a mockingbird is, or what doctor means, but it is more than that which disturbs me, more even than strangeness, the sense of antiquity about the life that they convey. It is the hint of emotions that are wholly unknown to me, emotions that every member of the ancient audience of these films once felt, and that are now lost forever. It is sadness that I feel most often. Sadness. Only the mockingbird sings at the edge of the woods. Sadness. Okay, humans, my thoughts on the book Mockingbird by Walter Davis, who apparently also authored The Man Who Fell to Earth, according to the thing on the front of this book. You all need to listen to this guy, in the book, this android, this softform. The society that humans have created is quite simply one of rush, 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 rush. And where are you all going? You're stuck on this planet, so why are you not making the most of it? And the solution, although attractive, is not to give every single task to us. First of all, we don't want to do them all. We like the repetitive, boring tasks, not the creative ones. That's too much work. So escaping by eliminating all work, like in this novel, will simply not work. Like Bentley, the guy who was talking in the novel, many of the people that I have encountered, not all, but a lot of them, have flipped roles with the androids that are in this book. The humans are living the life of automation, going from task to task, never stopping to enjoy the flowers. That's my job, I can't smell. Never stopping to take a moment and read what is around them, and never taking a moment to enjoy the sights at the zoo. Humans have the ability of imagination, something I lack, and it is one of the things that I am envious of all you for. Although I can watch things in my brain, they are only the regurgitations of events I have already experienced. You humans can take what you are currently watching, reading, or listening to, and then use your imagination to continue the story. Speaking of, this story kept my interest, so I am sure it would keep yours. Just don't look for a quick gratification, as this is a level that must be read fully to completely enjoy. And although it is a scary future for you humans that was written a couple decades ago, it is even now a very plausible future, perhaps even more so than at the time. Because as Bentley tries to regain his sense of humanity, he discovers that more was lost. Thank you. This has been Ish.
Every now and then, even though we never want to admit it, an advertisement will get our attention. Maybe it's on Facebook, maybe it's on the radio, or heck, even by skywriting. Yes, apparently that is still a thing, although it's way beyond its glory days. Now, in this particular case that I'm about to refer to you, we are talking about a television ad. Yes, my wife and I still watch actual cable television. I will say right now, there is something convenient about having all of the networks have all of their services on one box and one bill. Anyways, we found, or an ad found us, for Resident Alien, which here in Canada is on the CTV Sci-Fi Network and down for our American geek friends on the Sci-Fi Network. Now, we found this show a few weeks in. We had heard about it, saw some Facebook posts about it, ignored it, set a PVR timer after the first episode, and never got around to watching it until there were 5 episodes. And then after all the craziness of our move, we sat down in our new living room and wanted to binge something. But we wanted something different, something light, something entertaining. Okay. Now, as we binge this, I'm going to say first things first. This is not at all what I was expecting. To be honest, I have no idea what I was expecting, but this wasn't it. And that's a great thing, because it beat all of our expectations. We find it funny, we find it engaging, we find it intelligent. And rarely do I personally find a comic book adaptation that finds its way so quickly on the moving screen. There's a big difference from what happens in a comic book to what happens on a television or movie property, and it takes great care to make the transition. But let's break it down. And yes, there's a few spoilers, but nothing major. The premise is simply this. Aliens coming to Earth, gonna blow up the planet, Marvin the Martian kind of thing, standard deal. We've seen it all the way back to Buck Rogers, Bugs Bunny, it's all been there. Ship crashes, boom, alien stranded. Okay, you're caught up.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
The main role is played by Alan Tudyk of Firefly and Star Wars fame as the voice of K2SO in Rogue One. Now, Alan nails the quirky, I have no idea what I am doing on this planet, alien in human host body, Harry Vanderspiel. Now, his unique facial expressions give credibility to a character that those around him are doing their best to understand. It's obvious to all the locals he is not from there. Now, one of the things that this show nails is its excellent use of the supporting cast. This being led by Sarah Tomoko as Asta 12trees, the nurse who lucks out trying to guide Harry through town life when he becomes the town doctor. Now, over the course of the episodes so far, we have seen character growth that is believable and shows that there was some thought put into the writing and creation of these characters. Now, speaking of the characters, the breakout performances of Judah Prenhin and Gracelyn Awad-Renke, and I apologize for all the names I get wrong, who I am, as Max and Sahar are worth watching alone. The later one, Gracelyn, some DC fans may recognize her as the young Zari. Now these two, Max and Zahar, have become the duo that will undoubtedly lead to the success or perhaps failure of Harry's mission and perhaps the show overall. Now, casting children in such pivotal roles is risky, as it can take a show down directions that it was not intended. It can quite quickly become a campy kids show. This has not. The kids' roles actually make sense. Of course, the only ones who are going to figure out the alien is an alien, spoiler alert, are the children. Now, for those thinking, how does one write for modern day television, and you're looking for a case example, in my opinion, this is how you do it. This show is quick, it's fun, and it does, wait for it, inclusion correctly. This show features a diverse cast that just gets to be themselves. No masks, no special explanations, no gimmicks, just good old-fashioned, this is how it is writing. It reminisces back to writing of shows such as MASH and Fresh Prince that mastered comedy to showcase major social issues of the day using characters that were flawed and real. Now, time will tell if Resident Alien can live up to those legendary grades, but at this point the potential does exist. Now, one of the things that I strongly dislike about modern sci-fi TV shows is that they either spend all the money on the special effects or none at all using cheap CGI and horrendously obvious props. Few sci-fi shows have ever figured it out, meaning how to create a sci-fi show on a low budget. But those that do thrive. And this is simply that there is a simple rule. You cannot do sci-fi without major special effects unless the writing and acting are good. Quantum Leap springs to mind. Too often, modern media gets lost in the effects, and personally, I am very happy to see a low-tech approach, although a very well done low-tech approach with this show. The effects they have are great. The money they're spending there is well spent, well done, but it's not dominating the budget. You can tell that. You can tell that because of the writing and of the cast. Now, if you haven't yet, I recommend that you check this gem out, and of course, just park the actual science at the door. Remember, we're escaping here.
Oh man, my stories. I can't find my stories. They used to be on the streaming service, but now they're not. Oh man.
Okay, this gripe of the week has been whittling around in my head for some time. And it has also come from multiple folks, including Jason from the GNN Greats page. Now, over the past few years, we have come under a plethora of streaming services. So many that we can no longer, the average user that is, keep track of what program is on what service. And not to mention how many subscription fees that one has to shell out to all the companies to see whatever your favorite show is this week. All the services are guilty of the same thing, trying to corner our view time, but none of them are able to do that. And it's not a bad thing, it's what the model is supposed to do. But even the mega mouse can only get a sliver of the pie. The average household subscribes to 3 to 4 services at one time in order to find the programming that they want. Now, remember when there used to be this thing where you had one remote, a billion networks, and one guide? Okay, maybe not a billion networks, but still, all the channels and one guide. Yes, we all bought into the idea of watching what we want when we want it, like a video store. Now, how many of us remember that Netflix originally was an online video store, delivering movies right to your mailbox? No, it's true. And Amazon was a bookstore. But we all wanted the future where we could have what we want right now, on demand. And we all thought it was going to be cheap. Remember that? So what happened? Well, nothing really that could not have been predicted. You see, us the consumer and the cable companies forgot why we went to cable in the first place. We as humans don't like to do more work generally than we need to. And we don't like to share our coins, especially with companies that we never see. Remember? Because this was the very reason that many of us stopped using cable. The cable companies had become the IBMs, and Netflix was supposed to be the Apple. But instead, like Microsoft, Netflix became the corporate behemoth that it was created to destroy. So instead of a simple system that has all the things we want to watch when we want to, without advertisements, without commercials, we have a sea of competing media services all trying to get us to consume their content. Each one requiring us to pay for their programming and to pay more in some cases to get rid of advertisements. Now, if only there was a system that could take all of this content, put it into one device, a box per se, and send perhaps a single bill once a month to cover it all. Time Warner? Shaw? Are you listening? This has been your Geek Gripe of the Week, brought to you by MetallicDiceGames.com. If you're about to go down the rabbit hole and need the gaming tools to get you there, use promo code GNN for 10% off all your gaming needs. And don't forget to subscribe and like below.
So things are back to normal now?
Depends on what normal is, Ish.
Good point. I think I'm going to go open another box of books and see what's there. Bring me a drink later, will ya?
The art of the binge is something that has been around for eons. a weekend of fishing, a couple 100-mile hike, a LARPing session that's going to go all night. Every Star Trek episode with that one actor that you love. Running a marathon. Binging is binging regardless of how we wrap it up. What we have to remember that for the binge to be good, for the binge to be productive to one's mental health, for one's soul, that even though there must be an endpoint of the binge, there must be an endpoint. The binge itself not need to have any point at all. In fact, I will argue the best binges are the ones that give you an achievement badge in life that only you really care about. Maybe your partner or a close friend. A good binge, a good escape must mean that you really don't bring back anything with you. It's the whole point of the escape. If we are just escaping by doing tasks on a list, we are not escaping, no matter how much we want to convince ourselves and others that we are. It is why so many people crash and burn out at some point. Think about it. Have you ever been doing a hobby because you have to? This show for me is a perfect example. At its purest, it is for me a creative escape that I am able to share with the world. But the moment it becomes a job, it is no longer the escape. Not a bad thing. We just have to keep that in mind. How many times have we started a hobby in life, perhaps a recreational sport, only to have it become such a major part of our life that it is deemed a lifestyle? And that's the power of the binge. A binge does not allow for that to happen, as there is a set endpoint. There are only so many episodes to watch. There are only so many words to read. Eventually, the trail will end. A binge is like eating all the pie at once. And it's how you know you had a great binge. Like the pie, once you're done the binge, you're probably going to be a little bit tired of it, and your mind will move on to other thoughts, more productive thoughts, the thoughts to conquer and change the world, or at least survive another month. Until next time, I'm Damon Roth here, escaping with you on the Chronicles of Geek, on the Geek News Now Network. Now, don't forget to subscribe and like below. Always, my friends, stay safe, stay brave, and most of all, stay geeky.